Hi everyone, I'm Tamra with TH Photography LLC, and today I'm going to show you some basic editing skills you can use for your architectural photography to turn a photo that looks like this into this. If you haven't downloaded Lightroom Mobile yet, you'll need to do that first. I'm using my iPad for this demonstration, but you can use the app on your smartphone to make the same edits. The editing tools are at the bottom of the screen in the phone version, but they're the same icons. The first thing you'll need to do is import the photo that you plan to edit. You can do this by clicking on the three dots under My Albums and import a photo from the menu that pops up. If you're already in the album like I am, you can click on the icon that looks like a picture with a plus sign, and you'll see the import menu pop up. Select the photo that you want to edit. The first thing I like to do is straighten and crop the photo so that it isn't crooked. You'll do this by selecting the crop tool, which is the icon shaped like a box with arrows surrounding it. If you press the auto straighten button, I find it usually does a pretty good job of lining up the lines correctly. However, you can make some manual adjustments if it doesn't look quite straight to you. If I'm manually straightening the photo, I use the grid lines as a guide, which appear automatically when you begin to rotate the picture. Press done when you are finished. If you have distracting elements in your photo towards one of the edges, like this little bush here in the bottom right corner, and you want to remove it, you can crop the photo by dragging the corner. You can also shift the photo some under this tool. Be careful not to crop too much because you can end up with a low quality photo if it's cropped too heavily. Once you have finished making these adjustments, press the Done button in the bottom right-hand corner, or the checkbox on your phone. The next thing I'm going to do is modify the lighting. As you can see, the shadows are very dark and the highlights, like the clouds, are very bright. I'm going to raise those shadows so that you can see the detail in those darker areas and lower the highlights so that they're not so distracting. As you can see, my image is starting to look more balanced overall, but it's still a little bit too dark. To fix this, I'm going to brighten it by lifting the exposure. Be careful here not to lift the exposure too much. The image looks a little flat, so now I'm going to increase the contrast just a little to make it look more natural. The next thing I'm going to do is work with the settings under the Color tab. I'm going to start with the temperature. Oftentimes, the auto white balance works really well. However, on this particular photo, I find that it turns out to be too yellow, so I'm going to do it manually. It was a sunny day the day that I took this picture, so I'm going to warm this up just a little bit by moving the temperature slider a little towards the yellow. There's a little bit more color to the yard, so I'm going to work with that. I don't like to use the saturation slider because I feel like it makes it look very unnatural, but I do like to use the vibrance slider. Increasing vibrance will add a little saturation to muted colors while leaving the ones that are already quite saturated relatively untouched. Looking at this photo now, I can see that it looks very true to life in comparison to if I were standing in front of this particular house. So here's the before picture, and then here is the after picture. Lightroom is a very powerful tool that you can do a lot more with. However, even these small edits can make a huge difference in one of your photos. If I were submitting this particular photo to one of my clients, I would do a little bit more editing. However, I think this looks pretty good. My general rule of thumb for architectural photography edits is to remember that I want the photo to look natural and true to life. It can be tempting to use filters or go a little overboard with some of the features in Lightroom, but ultimately, the more natural edits are the ones that turn out the best for me. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, let me know and I will do my best to answer them.